Thank you, David. It's now my pleasure to introduce our representative in Congress, Mr. Bill Foster. Before being elected to Congress in 2007, Representative Foster had a distinguished career for 22 years as a researcher at Fermi National Accelerator Laboratory, Fermilab, in nearby Batavia. He is the co-founder of a very successful electronic engineering company, a native of Madison, Wisconsin, a graduate of the University of Wisconsin, holds a PhD in physics from Harvard University, and has numerous awards and prizes as a research scientist. Representative Foster.
Thank you. Well, good afternoon. It is an honor to be here today, and I want to thank Paul for that very kind introduction and for all the work that he's done with the Cantigny 1st Division Foundation. The museum and the grounds here have special memories for me and my family. We discovered Cantigny not long after we moved here in the mid-1980s. I still cherish photographs of my children climbing all over the tanks for as long as we would let them, and for the repeated warnings to them not to climb out too far on the gun barrels. And I just verified with David that he, in fact, remembers getting yelled at for that exact same offense. And then there was the mock-up of the trench warfare. I remember holding my young son's hand as we walked through and feeling his hand tighten up on mine with the simulated sounds and flashes of war. And thinking about how almost 100 years ago now, when parents released their children not to the simulation of war, but to the real thing, with real machine guns, high explosive shells, and all the horrors of modern warfare that made their first appearance during World War I and the battles of the 1st Division. And I remember my son, as we were talking, as I was tucking him into bed a few days later, asking me more and more questions about trench warfare, and eventually asking, well, how come people don't just stop fighting wars? You know, kids are pretty smart that way. So I had to tell him that while it was our duty to do everything we could to avoid a war, and to think very, very carefully before our country ever declares a war, to turn the other cheek again and again and again when a war is threatened. But in the end, there are going to be wars that you cannot walk away from. And when that happens, there is a debt that we can never repay to those young soldiers who must fight and die to keep our country safe and free. That's what this museum is about. As the congressman representing the 14th District of Illinois, I take every opportunity that I can to meet with our brave men and women in uniform, as well as the veterans who've so valiantly served our country. In fact, one of the votes that I'm most proud of casting in my brief term in Congress is my vote in favor of the GI Bill for the 21st century that provides soldiers returning from Iraq and Afghanistan with full 4-year college scholarships to help them succeed back at home. We, as a community and a nation, cannot thank these individuals enough for their service, and I find it incredibly inspiring to listen to their stories and to understand how their experiences are intertwined with our nation's history, the kind of education that every American should experience. The 1st Division Museum at Cantigny encourages this kind of learning and conversation, and I am so honored to be part of the museum's 50th anniversary celebration today. Thank you again, and enjoy the celebration.